Hey, peace world. I just wanted to jump in here really quickly. I'm about to get on the road, go do what I got to do for the day. But I thought it was pretty interesting. I've been talking about what's going on. Get this shit off my screen. What's going on with the NFL situation, the coach the lawsuit from Flores, and all of the fallout from that, and the coverage of it. How some of the loudest voices report on this, whether it's a Whitlock doing his thing with his angle. We have a Dr. Boyce Watkins here on YouTube with his angle. Roland Martin might be out there with his angle. Angela Rye is out there with her angle. I think she was on First Take. Stephen A. Smith is saying his thing. It's all kind of stuff, focusing on the obvious issue, racism and black versus white, and really a lot of talk, in my opinion, to really, and it doesn't need the NFL and the Shield doesn't need help in this area, but tearing down its marketability and its appeal when we sit here and get focused on all of the racial issues and all of the stuff that's going on in this multi-billion-dollar industry. But shout out to Black Enterprise. I mentioned them before. When I was working on my degrees, I used to read. I used to get that as a Christmas present. I used to ask people to give me a subscription to Black Enterprise. But shout out to them and this Derek Major, who's the author. See, this is January 21st. I really haven't seen any of the TV shows and the big time YouTube channels. I haven't seen them really talk about this. The people that I argue with a little bit, I do a couple of exchanges on Instagram posts about this. Like, let's talk about the real stuff. Let's talk about what can actually be done versus to just sit here and we need black owners. It's 70% of these brothers and it's one black coach. Like, let's talk about strategy and what can be done. But anyway, Black Enterprise has this article out here about Black billionaire. It's kind of funny that they had a dude's picture here, but he still has to be labeled as Black billionaire. I mean, they could have just said billionaire Robert Smith. I could have put two and two together. I mean, maybe I don't know. But Robert Smith emerging as possible bidder for Denver Broncos NFL franchise. I know about Robert Smith. I didn't realize this cat he grew up in Denver. And I was wondering when I heard that a lot of these channels haven't even really talked about the Broncos. Again, we're talking about strategy. A lot of these channels haven't even, and these shows haven't even said, hey, they're so busy talking about racism that they don't even say, hey, there's a team up for sale right now. And the Denver Broncos is a hell of an NFL brand. One of the few franchises that have won multiple Super Bowl titles. Excellent potential team for anybody to own. But I was like, would they even let a black person get a Denver Broncos? Maybe you give a black person, a black owner, Jacksonville, maybe the Arizona Cardinals, and give them one of these shitty teams, these teams that struggle year. But anyway, there have been ongoing conversations with Robert Smith, and if you remember, a couple of years ago at a graduation ceremony, why ain't my shit showing that? At a couple years ago at a graduation ceremony, I don't know if it was Morehouse. Yeah, it was Morehouse right here. Smith made headlines in 2019 when he gave the commencement speech at Morehouse College and pledged to pay off the student loans of the entire graduating 400 students. The pledge ended up costing Smith $34 million. If you were watching that, all the Black excellence videos, Black alpha ruling class, Black man is, maybe during that time frame, maybe somebody pointed out that this brother just paid off or pledged. Who knows if it actually happened? But $34 million was the cost of doing that. I wish I was sitting in them seats that day when he made that announcement. Now, the interesting thing here is, again, people just want to go on here and yell racism and white, black this, white supremacy. And I don't want to deal with none of the number, the shit that we actually know. Dude is 59 years old. He's an entrepreneur, grew up in Denver, the richest black person in the U.S. with an estimated net worth of $6.7 billion. The Broncos were valued at $3.75 billion last year, and their sale is expected to net more than $4 billion, which would make it the most expensive team sale in U.S. sports history. Now, let's look at that right there. I said nobody really want to look at the obvious, at the shit that we do know, the details that we do have right in front of us. Nobody wants to talk about it. But if the team is going to be $4 billion to buy it, and this man is worth $6.7 billion, ask you yourself, if you go to buy anything, if you got $20 in your pocket and go into the store, just for the purposes of this discussion, if you had $20 in your pocket, you're just gonna make a meal for your lady tonight or your date tonight. Why does this shit keep coming on my screen? And you had $20 in your pocket. The prime rib was $17. Would you buy the prime rib for this date? And that's eating up all your money? Like what side items can you get? So right off the rip, if the team costs four bills and this man is only worth $6.7 billion, do we put the expectation on this brother that he spends all his money, and all of his capital on this one investment? Probably not. It's probably not going to happen. In comparison, when the Bomber Cat paid, I want to say it was $2 billion for the Clippers a few years ago. Bomber was worth $20 billion, an estimated $20 billion. So he only had to put down 10%, just some simple math. He only had to put down 10% of his total net worth, estimated net worth, to go buy the Clippers. And it was 4 times as much as what any pro franchise had been paid for in the history of sports. But he wanted that team, and he had the money, he had the net worth to do it. So he did it. There's another story out here, by the way. If you go to the New York Post, there's a story out there that the NFL would be really interested in Robert Smith buying this team. But Robert Smith is in the middle of building some kind of hedge fund or some multi-billion-dollar fund. I think it was like going to be based. I don't know why the fund had to be based in Texas, but that's where what the story said. But it said he was more focused on building that fund and managing that fund than really getting sidetracked with running an NFL or owning an NFL franchise. Now, he could be putting that statement out, or his team could be putting that statement out there for leverage. Like, yeah, it's great that you're interested in me, but I ain't really all that interested in being an owner. I got other things I'm working on. Maybe that's his play. They also come down here. There's also more, like I said, this isn't anything that can get resolved in a couple of weeks. This damn advertisement won't get out of my way. But what makes this challenging here is that, according to Denver Gazette columnist Woody Page, other potential buyers of the Broncos include, you guessed it, Amazon founder and chairman Jeff Bezos, who's, also sending people up into outer space or at the edge of outer space with his whole space program thing. So Bezos is in play What if Bezos wants the team and he wants to say, well, the hell with the 4 bills, I give you 10 bills, let's wrap this shit up. He could do that. And then black man, whether that's a priority or not, or whether the black guy wanted to own the team or not, if the man says, here's 10 million, let's get this shit over with, guess what? Bezos becomes owner. And now it's still 30 or 30 of 32 owned by white cats or white families. Sure, nothing you can do about it. Former Broncos quarterback and current general manager John Elway, called out in the Brian Flores lawsuit. And former Broncos quarterback Peyton Manning are also in groups trying to buy the team. That's some competition right there. What else we got here before I get off of here? This is a little interesting right here. According to Bleacher Report, if the Broncos go up for sale, it would likely be through an auction because the team is owned. Like I said, you can be out here complaining about stuff and mad about shit and saying what change you want to see and we need change. But we got to know rules. We got to understand how the process even works. Maybe it really didn't have anything to do with some discriminatory practice or some discriminatory decision. It's a process involved in this. It will likely be through an auction because the team is owned under the Patrick D. Bolin Trust. Mike Cleese of 9 News in Denver reported the trustees would have a fiduciary responsibility to the trust beneficiaries to go with the highest bidder pending approval from 24 of the NFL's 32 owner teams. So that right there, like this isn't, Oprah just doesn't walk up because the team is for sale. Oprah just doesn't walk up with her $3.5 billion and say, hey, here's my check. Let me get the team. It has to go through this auction process. This isn't just like some private sale person to person. It's this auction process. And then like it states right here, would have a fiduciary responsibility to the trust. Shit off my screen. So I'm just trying to show you, you can sit here all up in your feelings, complaining about, 70% of the workforce is black. Why can't we get why can't no black people own a team? We can stay there if we want to. You can sit here and turn off the NFL. You don't want to support the NFL anymore. You can do that. Like you were able to bid for a team. I'm not watching the NFL anymore. They didn't take my $1,200 bid to be an owner. I'm pissed off. You can do that. You can get on Instagram with the mad black person and say, a black coach needs to be on, it needs to be a black coach, and that black coach needs to have a black quarterback. The center needs to be black. The right guard needs to be black. All these people need to be black. So this black, you can say shit that doesn't even make any sense. You just mad and can type. You don't have no logic, no understanding of how anything works. You just have an Instagram account, and that's your qualification to talk about this very complicated thing. And you don't really bring anything to the table. You don't really help fix shit. You don't help improve shit. You don't help change shit. You just had 10 minutes in between jumping in the shower and getting on with the rest of your day. And you said these black people ain't being treated fairly. And by the way, shout out to you can go check out. I listened to the Pivot podcast with Hugh Jackson on there, former NFL coach and offensive coordinator of the year 1 year. Now he's coaching at Grambling State, head coach at Grambling State. A lot of interesting stuff was said in that podcast. I would suggest checking that out versus sitting here listening to Joy Reid talk about NFL coaching and NFL ownership. Listen to my man who got blood, who got time in the game, who played the game, and who got unfairly treated. Listen to what he has to say about it. Marvin Lewis was he on the Pivot? Yeah, former Cincinnati Bengals coach. He was on the Pivot podcast with Fred Taylor, Channing Crowder, and Ryan Clark. They just had Beast Mode. I think he was the most recent guest on there, unless that Terrell Owens show is already out there. But you can actually go listen to people who have some real shit to say, who were really done wrong, besides somebody on MSNBC who doesn't even watch, hasn't even watched the NFL year in, year out. They just saw this headline, black fired coach files lawsuit, and that's when they started paying attention. And shout out to my angry white dudes over on Outkick.com. Like, no matter how unfairly and how obvious the treatment is and the poor treatment is, no matter what, the understanding of some angry white dudes is just like, how the hell is it? How the hell is the NFL racist if it's only 2 NFL white wide receivers? How can this be racist? Like that's the extent of the understanding for some people. Why aren't there any white cornerbacks? How can the NFL be racist? It's no white NFL cornerbacks. That's how some people come into the argument on that side. Then the other thing from the angry white dude is, how can you be mad about getting $10 million a year? Like, put your integrity and your self-respect away. Put that shit in your pocket and be happy with this money that we gave you and shut the hell up. The NFL is not racist. It's weird in this world, man. It's weird in this world. It's weird as hell in this world. Again, Joy Reid, Tiffany Cross, I think, is on MSNBC right now. Did they put out a phone call to get Robert Smith on the phone and have a real interview that might help us out a little bit and ask Robert Smith, what's going on with this? We would love, sir. We would like to tell you how to spend your money, all the years that you've been working to get ahead in your field and do your thing. We need you to be the champion for us and go out here and take 75% of your net worth and go own the Denver Broncos. We need you to do that, sir, because you're a black man and you got to represent all black people. That's weird to me. Why would I sit here and go on my podcast and go on YouTube and talk about black ownership? One, I can't even begin. I can't put 2 nickels together to try to own an NFL team. It's not the most pressing issue of the day for me every day that a black person own an NFL team. It just isn't. I don't think it's fair. I was watching an interview yesterday with my man from the wide receiver from Minnesota. I can't think of his name. Man. Cannot think of his name. Gritty Cat. Jefferson, that's his name, Justin Jefferson. I was watching him with the Marcellus and Acho yesterday. I was impressed listening to the kid because he said he was committed to being the best wide receiver ever to ever do it. The only receiver in the league through his first 2 years, 3,000 yards of receiving. And with Kirk Cousins as his quarterback. But he was like, yeah, I just want to get better. I want to be dominant. I want to go out here and be the best in the game. I want to go down as the best that ever did it. I work this, I do this. And as good as he is, they were like, well, how can you improve on that? And he was like, I got different things that I could eliminate this. I can get better at this area. I'm like, I'm enjoying it. But then I'm listening to a Joy Reid or a Dr. Boyce Watkins or a Tiffany Cross. And it's like this brother that's working so hard to be dominant in what he's good at, to be the number one guy in what he in what his profession is, what his childhood dream was, that's not good enough. You need to be thinking about also owning the team. And I'm just like, how fair is that to that young man? How fair is it that we just go around to other people and assign our expectations of what they should be doing to them? I don't get that. I don't get that. Anyway, let me get on off of here. Pay me no mind, sports and entertainment. I just thought that was very interesting that there are, if you, like I said, if you read the NY Post, which, you know, NY Post, I don't know how much you put into that, how much stock you put into that, but they said Robert Smith is not all that interested in owning the team. What I just showed you from Black Enterprise, you know, there's some interest. And with him being from Denver, you know, that's interesting. That's an interesting connection. And you know, I would like to see the brother do it. Now I mentioned, you know, the dude is worth $6.7 billion. The team is expected or projected to sell at $4 billion. Look how much money that would take up from him. There is the possibility of going out here and becoming the head of an investment group where you're the majority owner from the investment group. We know that even just layman finance and, you know, layman understanding of business is that none of these people want to do a whole lot of anything with their own money. You go to make a move, you do it with other people's money. I don't own shit, and I know that's one of the principles of how you come up, how you get over, is doing shit with other people's money. But there, I think the one detail that I read was that Robert Smith would only have to put up like $1 billion of his own. So like I said, it's a lot of details involved when we go to talk about doing some of this stuff. A couple things come to mind. Understand the process. How can we go out here and get mad about Black ownership in any of these leagues when we don't know what the process is? We also don't know who's even getting involved, who's even inquiring, who's even approaching these organizations to become an owner. We don't even know if that's happening or not. Know the process. Know who the people are that are possibly pursuing these accomplishments or team ownership. And then kind of like watching when things don't pan out. Like I said, the Denver Broncos is just not a brother trying to sell a used car, you know, trying to sell his old car. I got my what's the shit? The Carfax. Here's the Carfax report. Khalil, do you want to buy this or not? It's not that simple. It's not that simple. It's in this particular case with the Broncos, it's an auction because the owner died and left it to his family. I think the kids they can't settle on the, you know, what the ownership hierarchy is. So because they haven't resolved that, it's going into this sale process. And what they're going through the sale process is going through an auction. And it comes down to an auction. And Jeff Bezos is involved in the auction process. So if you're going up against him, you know, you just might be short. You know, if Bezos wants to spend $8 million, if he wants to do what Steve Ballmer did when he bought the Clippers, Ballmer didn't let anybody else get involved. He didn't let Magic Johnson try to decide how bad would it be for me as a Laker guy. How would it look for me to buy the Clippers? And he didn't even let Irvin make that, you know, do the pros and cons to make that decision. Ballmer was like, yo, here's $2 million. I want the team. Here's the bag. Give me the team. Let me get out of here. I got plans for them. Give them here. They're in good hands. It was 4 times the amount that any team had ever been purchased for. Sometimes we got to understand some of these things that we're out here complaining about. We got to understand them a little bit better before we go invest in energy in some of this stuff. Hey, but let me get on out of here. I got to get somewhere. Pay me no mind, sports and entertainment. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Peace.